Welcome to Morfanime. I'm your fan of more anime, and today we will be taking a deep dive. I will be reviewing Whole Cake Island. More specifically, this is my part 1 of my Whole Cake Island review. I actually tried to get through the entire thing, which is actually pretty long. Turns out to be pretty long, so I decided to cut it off at a certain point. I actually got pretty far. I believe I started at chapter 825 and ended at chapter 878. Which is a shiz ton of chapters in One Piece, to say the least. There's a lot to cover here. 2 major backstories, including Sanji and Big Mom. This is one hell of an arc. And I wasn't sure how to think about Whole Cake Island when I first saw the island. I guess I shouldn't get too deep into this review without asking you guys, please, if you could like, subscribe, share Morfanime. I am trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2022. If I reach that goal, I'll be very happy. If not, I'll hit it in 2023. Also, link down below. Don't forget to order yourself the new Morfanime t-shirt and become a Morfanimaniac. Oh yeah. Bow, bow, chicka, chicka. Where do I start here with Whole Cake Island? I think I want to start with probably my favorite part is Sanji's new, not necessarily new, but his backstory. I originally thought we had his backstory with him being an orphan on a ship and then Chef Zeph taking him in and starting the Baratier. I thought, okay, we know who Sanji is. And if you had watched my ranking of the Straw Hats video, you might know that Sanji didn't necessarily rank as number 1. He was number 4 because I felt like he needed a little something more. And I think Whole Cake Island gave me that. It gave the fans some more backstory for Sanji, and a very good and sad backstory. It also shows that Sanji has 4 siblings, I believe 3 brothers who are they quadruplets or some shit, and 1 sister who's a little older than him, and they're all genetically enhanced by their terrible father, Judge Vinsmoke. It's pretty wild. I have to say that. The idea that Sanji was one of these genetically enhanced kids, and yet he wasn't, at birth, he wasn't given these amazing abilities that his brothers were given, or his sister was given. He was an average child. I mean, it does kind of explain why Sanji's oh so strong, even though he doesn't train as hard as Zoro, at least from what we can see. Most of the time we see Zoro on his off time working out, you know, training his abilities, his muscles and whatnot. You usually just see Sanji flirting with chicks or cooking food for Luffy, which can be a hard job. But the idea that Sanji grew up next to these genetically superhuman brothers who treated him like shiz, and he just wanted to be a cook. He just wanted to do regular kid stuff. He had a mom that loved him, probably loved him more than his brothers. I don't know, she seemed like a sweetheart. He would cook for her and whatnot. He obviously wanted to be a cook at a very young age. He liked to create things with his hands. But his father looked down on that. He's like, that's servant work. We do not cook things. That's what the servants are for. He couldn't keep up with the brothers in speed, strength, everything. To the point where he's asking the scientists, like, what's going on with Sanji? What is up with this kid? It is interesting that Sanji is the only one that has the same hair color as his father. And it also makes me wonder what's going on with Judge Vinsmoke. What makes him oh so special. Is he genetically enhanced? I don't think so. Germa 66 is a rather interesting country because it isn't necessarily on an island. It's on these giant snails, very similar to snail phones. I'm interested to know what these giant swimming snails are. Some subspecies of the snail phones. And the island is a bunch of these giant snail phones, and they all interlock together. It's fucking amazing how Oda set this up. He's been setting up this backstory for Sanji for many, many years. 15, 18 years. I don't know how. The story's been going on since 1997, I believe. And the fact that we had the Mr. Prince stuff way back in Alabasta, which definitely was a little bit of a foreshadowing leading up to Sanji being a prince of Germa. Germa 66 is... I'm not even sure, is Sanji a cyborg? Is his brother cybernetic? They have like harder skin. There's a point where one of the sister gets shot and it pierces the skin. And they're like, oh, it pierced your Germa 66 genetically enhanced skin or some shiz. It's crazy. It's crazy. The fact that Sanji gets locked up in a cell. And they put an iron mask on him. His father puts an iron mask on him. And he doesn't have, Sanji's dad doesn't have the balls to kill his own son, but he's so ashamed of him, he doesn't want him to be known as his son. So he locks him up for 6 months and doesn't do anything about it, just leaves him there. Feeds him once or twice a day. He has to wear this iron mask for no real reason. He could have been locked up without the iron mask. I don't understand that. I don't understand why Judge didn't let him just become a cook and just say, hey, don't say I'm your dad, just work here or cook for everybody. And it wasn't just that he was inferior to his brothers. His brothers would beat the shit out of him on a regular basis. His sister was the only one with a little bit of empathy, but she would never stand up for Sanji at all. Not once. Because she didn't want to become the next target of their bullying. The kids had all their emotions removed from them. And her Renji, his brother, Sanji's sister still had her emotions, still had her empathy. And she did care for Sanji. She's actually the one who bent the bars that were locking Sanji up in the basement or whatever, in the cellar. I mean, Judge even told the people of Germa 66 that Sanji had died. He told his kid, the other sons, that he had died. He was pretty hell-bent on hiding this kid for God knows how long. And when Sanji finally breaks out, thanks to help from his loving sister, the fact that Sanji treats women so well makes a whole lot of sense, since his mom and his sister were the two people that really cared about him when he was growing up in his formative years. And the fact that he hates most men that he meets because his father and his brothers were just pieces of shit to him. I can really relate to Sanji for the fact that my dad wasn't around and I was kind of raised by my uncle because my mom had to work 2 jobs to pay for food and all that whatnot. So I get that you have another father figure like Sanji did with Chef Zeph. So I feel the pain that Sanji's gone through. I really do. Sanji escapes. He finds the key to take the iron mask off. And his father catches him escaping Germa. By the way, in the East Blue, I even skipped past the part where Germa 66 scales the red line. They go over the red line with their snail ships. And it's funny because they actually bring that up back at Reverse Mountain, I believe, right before we meet right before we get to the Grand Line. And Zoro says it's impossible to scale the red line. And I think Sanji says something to the point of, no, I've done it before. Because he did do it before. Sanji did scale the red line with his family. He did escape, and he did get out into the East Blue, and that's how he ended up in the East Blue. He ended up on some ship, and somehow he got a job as a cook. And then eventually he meets Chef Zeph, and that's kind of where we found Sanji in the baratier of his life. And he got to learn from Chef Zeph, who taught him manners and whatnot, and not to hit a woman. And even told him things like, hey, if you ever hit a woman, I will kill myself after I kill you. So that kind of left a stain on Sanji. A good one. Sanji is such a great character. He might be one of the best developed characters in the entire series, to be honest, at this point. This was so good. I wanted to get past the Sanji backstory because it's so good. I'm not sure if it's my favorite backstory in the series. I think my favorite backstory is still Nico Robin's, but I'll have to do some kind of video where I talk about my favorite backstories, because there's a shiz ton of good ones. I mean, Doflamingo's laws, which are kind of intertwined, as I've mentioned before. Sanji ends up on Whole Cake Island. He gets taken there knowing that he's going to be wed to Pudding, one of the many daughters of, one of the many children of Big Mom, who is literally a Big Mom because she's got like 80 children. Big Mom is a hell of an emperor, to say the least. This character is something. Big Mom is frightening as all heck. She has the power of the soul fruit. She can take your lifespan out of your body, people. Rip it out of your body, down to the year. Like, there's a point where we find out she took 50 years from Pedro the mink that is traveling with Luffy and Carrot and the B team to save Sanji. And what I mean by B team is, back at Dressrosa, I consider the Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Luffy Law Squad as the A team. And the team that went to Zou, that are now the prominent people in this arc, Nami, Chopper, Brook, and Sanji, they are, in a way, the B team, if you compare them to the other half that were in Dressrosa. But I have to say that I think so far in Whole Cake Island, I've only got like 22 chapters left or some shit, maybe 24. I feel like it is on the same level as Dressrosa. I think Whole Cake Island stands on its own. It's got its own life. It's got its own themes. Its island is crazy. The doors are alive. The clouds, some of the clouds have faces, and the sun, there's like a sun that goes around and has a face. Big Mom can take parts of people's souls, and you have to pay, I believe, 2 months of your life to Big Mom every year to stay in Whole Cake Island. If you don't, you have to leave. My assumption is, if you say that you're not going to give up your life, they'll just kill you and take all of it. I don't think Big Mom's just going to let you go. You might as well try to sneak away, because it's kind of dangerous to tell Big Mom no. There's like these little Big Mom soul suckers that live in the town, I guess. She doesn't even have to do the work by taking the parts of the souls. They ask the citizens life or leave, and most of them say life. They'll give up their month of life. And it sounds nice, but what if you're really old and you only got a month left? Then it's like, shit, I better get out of here and enjoy my last month alive, right? But Pedro, he's a whole nother box of worms. We get to learn about him as well. I also feel like Brook and Djembe are actually the MVPs of this arc. They have major moments, arguably some of the best Djembe and Brook moments in the entire series so far. Sanji shows up, he meets Pudding, obviously kind of falls for her. It's kind of vague the way they bring it up, but he also meets his father for the first time in many, many years. And they have an argument. They have a little bit of a tiff, and his father challenges him to a fight. He challenges Sanji to a fisticuffs, a battle. They go at it in a very good fight, under a chapter, but a very good battle. We get to see Germa 66 in action. The idea that they have these soldiers who are willing to die for them at any moment. I think at one point while Sanji's actually kicking Judge's ass, he says it's like meat shield or something, and 3 or 4 of his Germa 66 soldiers get in front of Sanji's kick, and then Judge spears, he shish kebabs one of them and takes out Sanji. Honestly, if Judge didn't include interference, I feel like Sanji would have won that battle. 9 times out of 10, I feel like Sanji is stronger than his brothers and father individually, and he didn't have to use genetic enhancements or those weird suits they wear. We actually get to meet Luffy accidentally eats a poisonous fish, which I thought he was completely immune to poison, but I guess not. Which was a little weird. That did throw me off. I was like, well, it's fine. Luffy can take pretty much any poison after dealing with Magellan. No, I guess this fish's poison is pretty bad. Luffy almost dies, but before they make it to Whole Cake Island, they run into Sanji's sister and youngest brother. And the youngest brother's being a dick, and he's not going to help Luffy out. But the sister, luckily, almost too luckily, has got the ability to suck poison out of people through the lips, and gives Luffy, I believe, his first kiss. Or CPR, if you want to call it that. Sucks the poison, a very deadly poison that supposedly, according to Sanji's cookbook, could kill you in an instant. But Luffy was surviving for God knows how long. Luffy survives this, doesn't even realize what happened. Thank goodness Sanji's sister showed up. I mean, Luffy's one lucky motherfucker. Luffy and the crew show up. They meet Pudding. They meet Pudding at her bakery, I think, and she seems to be an absolute sweetheart. And I really mean seems to be an absolute sweetheart. Actually turns out to be a psycho. And at first, when I met Pudding, I was like, wow. For the longest time, I thought that Sanji and Nami should end up together at the end of the series. I don't really ship people in One Piece, but I do think that Sanji should end up with some woman at some point. And I thought Viola was a good choice back at Dressrosa, but I always thought that Sanji and Nami kind of have a thing going on. But Pudding seemed like the perfect girl for him, but it turns out to be a whole act. And, she's one of the various children of Big Mom, and I was like, man, she's a sweetheart. The rest of her family are a bunch of assholes. No, she's kind of crazy. She's almost like I guess you'd say like a multi-personality person, because she's got her 3 eyes. She's part of the 3-eyed tribe, like Tien from Dragon Ball, who's my favorite character from the Dragon Ball series, so you got the point there, Pudding. Let me just open this beer. Pudding seems to be a sweetheart. She tells Luffy and the gang, hey, Sanji's back at the castle. He said he loves me, but I won't marry him. I'm going to give you this map. It'll show you how to get to Big Mom's castle where you can save her. It's a secret passageway. Y'all be good. And I was like a little skeptical of that, but at the same time, she seems like a sweetheart. Why not believe her? The crew goes around. They end up in the seducing forest, which all the trees have faces, as I mentioned. All the plants and stuff have faces. They run into one of Big Mom's ex-husbands who's stuck in the ground for some fucking reason. He doesn't really end up being that important, even though he's there. He kind of helps explain a little some bullshit that didn't really matter. He's actually Lola's father, Lola from back at Thriller Bark. That's how badass of a writer Oda is. He's setting up plot points way in advance, and I love it. I am here for it. There's a reason One Piece is the greatest manga of all time. It really is. It really is. I'm having a hard time getting into other new anime/manga because of how good One Piece is. I kind of compare them all the time, and I shouldn't. I almost think I need to blitz through this series and stop reviewing other things so I don't compare the things, because One Piece is that damn good. And if people say they don't want to get into it because it's too long, that was me at one point, and I regret not getting into it a long time ago. But at the same time, I feel like maybe I wouldn't have respected how great it is until this age of mine at 31. What I'm trying to say is One Piece is fantastic. Luffy and the gang get stuck in the seducing woods that don't let them escape. They're kind of screwed. They run into a few members of Big Mom's family. I have a list because I cannot remember every child here. A man named Cracker, Charlotte Cracker. Charlotte's the last name of all the Big Mom children. This dude is pretty cool looking. He kind of looks like a character from Bleach. I just started Bleach, if you've been watching those reviews. There's a main villain, I think his name's Jin, or Gin or some shit, but he kind of looks like that. He's got a really cool design. He's got a really strange devil fruit. There's a lot of strange devil fruits in Whole Cake Island. A lot of food-based devil fruits, including crackers, who can like summon crackers, I believe, or biscuits. And he summons biscuit soldiers. He can summon almost an infinite amount of these biscuit soldiers. Luffy and the gang also run into another daughter of Big Mom's, who I don't have her name, but she can summon... She can go into mirror worlds, and she can make copies, mirror images of people, clones of other people. There's like a mirror version of Luffy at one point. It's a pretty unique ability. She actually ends up in a battle with Carrot and Chopper, which kind of take Carrot and Chopper out of the story for a while. They get a little off-screen battle. I'm assuming they expand upon it in the anime. They stretch it out in a good way, because I do feel like so far Carrot and Chopper kind of got sidelined, and I feel bad mostly for Carrot because she's become Chopper's sidekick. And Chopper is like Usopp's sidekick. And that means you're like the sidekick. Because Usopp is like the sidekick of like Luffy. or less. I mean, Carrot needs something more. I need more from Carrot before I can give you a full opinion on this lady. I want to like her. I like her design. I like her debut where she dodged one of Zoro's strikes, but she doesn't do anything of note other than help Chopper out here against this mirror lady, who actually, her ability becomes very important to this story. Luffy ends up fighting this cracker guy for 11 hours or some like 12 or 11 hours. He keeps summoning these cracker soldiers, these biscuit soldiers. Luffy eats them. Yeah, his plan, Luffy's big plan, his big brain plan is to eat these biscuit soldiers, which is pretty wild. And he becomes expanded, and he ends up going into Gear 4, but he calls it something else. I think he calls it Gear 4 Tank Man instead of Gear 4 Bounce Man. And he looks intense. And he ends up bouncing Cracker through the seducing forest, taking out one of Big Mom's top generals in her crew in the Big Mom Pirates, which is pretty much a big deal, because other than Cracker, there's a girl named Smoothie she's part of the long leg. She's got the long legs, kind of like how Apu has the long arms. And another guy who seems really important, who seems like Big Mom's numero uno general guy, the sweet trio, Katakuri. So Cracker is not that far down the line of strongest people in Big Mom Pirates. So Luffy takes this guy out. And before we get to Luffy running into Sanji and having one of the most emotional fights in the entire series, right up there with Luffy and Usopp, Sanji does end up getting his ass beat by his brothers again, like he did as a child, almost PTSD-like, because he tried to defend a servant lady, and he ends up eating food off the ground. It's this whole ordeal. Sanji gets beat up, and because he wasn't allowed to fight back. I don't know if I mentioned this, but he's worried about the people at the Baratier. He's worried about the Straw Hat Pirates, but he's more importantly worried about Chef Zeph, who probably couldn't defend himself against Germa 66 or any member of the Big Mom Pirates in any way, shape, or form. And they're threatening to kill them. And not only that, Sanji gets these bombs that are very similar to the bombs that they locked around the Celestial Dragons locked around their slaves, but around his wrists. So if he tries to escape, they'll blow his hands up, and Judge knows that Sanji wants to be the best cook in the world. So he's like, "We'll blow your hands up, and then what you gonna do?" And you know, Sanji's willing to sacrifice and whatnot. And when he ends up confronting Luffy, when Luffy finally beats Cracker, and him and Nami, I think I forgot to mention this, by the way. Nami does help Luffy. Nami and Luffy kind of team up, honestly. Nami summons rain to rain down onto Cracker's biscuit soldiers, and that's the only way that Luffy was able to eat them. And I wanted to bring that up because I was really stoked to see Nami and Luffy work together as a team, because it's been a while since they've had some, like, teamwork. You know, usually it's like Luffy and Zoro and Sanji, but Nami had a lot of important things to do here, and I think it helped not having Zoro around. Speaking of not having Zoro around, I know there's a lot going on here. I'm sorry. This was a lot of chapters to cover. It's kind of the reason why I didn't finish the entire arc, and I just could not. I had so much stuff to say. Zoro is the one character I want to be here, because not only do I love the fact that Sanji and Zoro's relationship is almost brotherly, like two rival brothers in a way, and I kind of want to see Zoro's opinion on Sanji's shitty brothers, and I just want to see Zoro and Sanji whoop their asses. Like, I want to see Zoro, the guy who's always pissed off at Sanji, like, stand up for him in a way. But that didn't happen because Zoro's nowhere around. He's going to Wano. But I really would have liked to see Zoro's opinion on Sanji and his somewhat betrayal of Luffy and his fight with Luffy, because Zoro was a big part of Usopp's fight with Luffy. He was a big part, commentary-wise, when he talked about how, like, we can't just forgive Usopp, he has to apologize, all that fun stuff. Like, Luffy learned a lot from Zoro there, as Zoro explained to him, we're not playing pirates, we are pirates. You have to understand that we can't just allow them to come back to the crew without some repercussions. So Luffy shows up, and he tells Sanji, "Hey, bud, we're here to save you. Me and Nami, Pedro's here with Brook. They're trying to get the." By the way, since I didn't mention it, Pedro and Brook are out trying to get the poneglyph, the red poneglyph. They're trying to write it down, sneak in there and whatnot. So Sanji gets out of the carriage, walks up to Luffy, and kicks him in the face, and he says, "Get out of here, pirate. You're lowly. You're nothing." But really, obviously, Sanji doesn't want to say these things. He's trying to protect the Baratier. He's trying to protect Luffy as well. I think at this point, he would know that Luffy doesn't need protecting. He's also trying to protect Nami. I mean, Luffy's exhausted, by the way, at this point. He spent 12 hours fighting Cracker in the Forest of Homies. I forgot to mention every living creature on this island, like the trees that have faces, the clouds and whatnot, the sun that has a face, they're all called homies, which I absolutely adore, that name. So Luffy's exhausted from fighting the homies and whatnot. Nami has actually tamed the homies because she's got the Vivere card that she got from Lola way back at Thriller Bark, and it has a piece of Big Mom's soul in it, which worked out oh so well for her. And actually really turned out to be a big point in this story. It ends up letting them get through the seducing woods. These homies kind of have to listen to her. Luffy doesn't fight back against Sanji, which turns out to be the best option, but I was kind of disappointed personally because I would have liked to see how Sanji measures up to Luffy, but I really enjoyed the fight even though Luffy did not fight back. And, I mean, I don't think Luffy would pull out Gear 4 to fight Sanji or anything, but it would have been kind of cool to see Luffy and Sanji go at it for at least a chapter. Just going head to head. But no, Luffy doesn't pull even one punch. He doesn't even throw a punch. Sanji literally knocks one of Luffy's teeth out. Not as a joke, not as a... I think this happened before where he's had teeth knocked out, but it's just like comedy. He literally knocks one of Luffy's teeth out. And Luffy tells Sanji, like, you don't mean anything you're saying, and you're the one that's actually hurting here. You're not hurting me with these kicks. You're the one who's in pain, which was super deep, and I think that just as much as this arc is for Sanji's character development, I think it also shows us how great of a captain Luffy is. And Luffy ends up telling Sanji, hey, I'm going to sit right here, and I ain't moving. And I ain't going to eat anything unless you serve it to me because you're my cook. You're the cook of the Straw Hat crew. That's right. I'm not going to move. I'll starve to death. And I thought that was pretty noble. Sanji ends up going on forward. Luffy ends up getting captured, and Nami, they get captured because an army of all the children of Big Mom come out and eventually overwhelm them. They pin them up. It looks like they staked Nami and Luffy's hands to a wall, which seemed pretty brutal. Usually in One Piece they lock them in sea prism stone chains. No, they had them locked against the wall. And eventually Pudding comes down and visits them in the cell while they're locked up, and secretly says something to Luffy. And at the same time, I'm like, what's going on? What does Pudding have to say? And once she says it, Luffy starts freaking out. He tries to he twists his arms around his body like a spaghetti, and he's trying to literally rip his arms off the wall. And he tells Nami, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna save Sanji. This is bullshit. And it shows, in the manga, it shows his arms tearing at some point. There comes a point where his arms can no longer gum around. And he really meant it when he said he was going to rip his arms off to get out and save the day. Really reminiscent of when Zoro was going to cut his feet off way back at Little Garden. Luckily, Jinbei shows up and breaks them out just in time. Jinbei, who I haven't even mentioned yet, shows up a little earlier in the story and tells Big Mom that he's quitting the Big Mom Pirates because he had joined, he joined them because he wanted to keep Fishman Island safe since Whitebeard's dead. And now he does truly feel that Luffy is the future savior of the world. He's the future king of the pirates. And Big Mom tells him immediately, you better not be trying to leave. And if you're going to leave, you're going to spin this wheel. And whatever it lands on, you're going to lose an arm, an eye, and a head, some 50 years of your life. It ain't going to be good, bud. So he decides not to leave the Big Mom Pirates nobly, where his crew, the Sun Pirates, do tell him, please go, we'll stay here. You go, join the Straw Hat crew. You deserve it. You've been spending your entire life protecting us, protecting Fishman Island. You became a Shishibukai just so you can protect the world that we live in underwater. You did that for us. Now go live your life. Live your best life, Jinbei. Join the Straw Hat Pirates. As you might know, I'm not a huge Jinbei fan, but I think this arc made me a Jinbei fan coming up later. Jinbei saves Luffy and Nami. They get out. We find out what Pudding told Luffy when we see Sanji try to bring Pudding a bunch of food that he made. He makes a whole basket of food. He's like, hey, you know, if I have to join the Big Mom Pirates, I will. And I think Pudding's a sweetheart, so I might as well accept the fact that she's the only good thing left in my life. He tries to sneak into her room, but finds out that she's got his sister locked up. She shoots her, and then cuts the memory out. By the way, Pudding can edit people's memories. Who knows if she's already done it to Sanji? She can take like film reels out of their head and then cut and edit their memories. It's pretty wild and pretty OP, and kind of reminded me of Sugar's ability from Dressrosa. Like, does it go back if she gets knocked out, or is it permanent? Pudding is very powerful if you think about it, and a very integral member of the Big Mom Pirates if this is her power. She's able to shoot Reggie, and she explains that it's all been a ruse, and she's actually going to murder Sanji. The whole plan was never to marry into Germa 66. Nope. No way, Jose. No, the whole plan was actually to kill the entire family and take all of their technology. By the way, Germa 66 has cloning technology, and they've cloned most of their soldiers on their Germa 66 ships that sacrifice themselves. They've cloned these super soldiers as basically sacrificial lambs, and a bunch of other technology that Judge Vinsmoke used to work with Dr. Vegapunk. That's right, Dr. Vegapunk. This guy keeps coming up, doesn't he? He used to work with him, and he ends up escaping when the world government captures Dr. Vegapunk. And I'm starting to think Dr. Vegapunk isn't such a bad guy if he had to be captured by the world government and forced to build them pacifistas and whatnot. I'm starting to think that Vegapunk is doing this stuff against his will. And I'm starting to think that he might be the reason Kuma had so much free will and he protected the Sunny was because Vegapunk was trying to help out. He was trying to do good things the best he could. I'm assuming Kuma talked to Vegapunk, and it's like, hey, Straw Hat Luffy's going to change the world. Let me protect his ship, please. So they have Vegapunk technology, stuff that probably the world government doesn't have, and Big Mom wants it. Big Mom wants this technology, and so they're going to kill them at the wedding. It's pretty crazy. I mean, if they could kill them, maybe they're trying to do it in this secret way, this like super red wedding type way. If you're a big Game of Thrones fan, very much reminded me of the Red Wedding. It's a pretty good plan. There's like double crosses within double crosses. Luffy decides to go back to the spot he said he was going to wait. Sanji decides to bring the food that's all soaking wet now from being in the rain. Sanji cried. I felt bad. I emotionally felt bad for Sanji when he found out that Pudding was a crazy psycho Gemini type thing with a third eye. Sanji goes back to Luffy, ends up giving him the shitty food that's all old now. Luffy's all shriveled up, and he's like, thank you. Eats all of Sanji's food, feels great, and he actually has like a thing he says to Sanji. He's like, this food's amazing, and it reminds Sanji of his mom, who ate his shitty food when he was a kid. So Luffy and Sanji make up. And he tells Sanji, like, hey, you're going to join my crew again, or you're going to stay with the crew, right? And Sanji's like, 1, I have to save the people in the Bratier. 2, I have to save my family, even though they're all pieces of shit. My sister's pretty nice, so I might as well save them all. And my Chef Zeph wouldn't have liked me letting them die and whatnot. And 3, I beat the shit out of you, like, within 24 hours ago. I will not be able to come back to you guys. And Luffy decks Sanji. The whole time they were fighting earlier, he wouldn't even touch Sanji. But he decks Sanji, and he's like, tell me the truth. And Sanji says, I want to go back to the crew. And I was just like, yeah, hell yeah. Sanji's coming back, baby. And then Luffy's like, let's go crash a wedding. And I was pumped. I chills down my spine. Pumped. for them to crash this wedding. The One Piece red wedding. They come up with a plan. Jinbei actually, they all end up in the mirror world. But before we get to that, Brook's little side story, which actually turns out to be great. Pedro ends up becoming a distraction. Brook ends up actually getting the poneglyph all written down. So he gets the entire poneglyph drawn down. I don't know how he did it, but he copied the entire poneglyph. So now Nico Robin can decipher it, which is great because Brook is a G. Probably the biggest thing he's done since way back at Thriller Bark, honestly. It was pretty dope to see Brook get some a major moment. The fact that he got away with it, and then he got captured by Big Mom. There was actually an hilarious scene where Big Mom's sleeping with Brook because she likes weird things like Brook. And Nami, Chopper, and Carrot end up saving him after multiple tries and replacing him with another dead body that they attached like a fro to. I thought that was pretty funny. And Big Mom just thought, oh, he's dead. I guess I killed him. And threw the skeleton away and assumed that Brook was dead. And I thought that was interesting. Brook is kind of the perfect counter to them. He's the Soul King, and she's got the Soul Fruit. He's the perfect counter to these homies. The crew gets back together inside the mirror world, and Jinbei explains to them, hey, remember Beige Capone, the guy that brought you here? The guy who seemingly married into the Big Mom family. I don't think I mentioned this, but Big Mom marries off her children, obviously, to different islands and different factions so she can build her world. Eventually, everybody will be part of the Big Mom family. It's going to be a whole incest thing. Beige ended up joining Big Mom, probably because she saw Kid get his ass beat. Apparently, Kid at one point during the 2-year time skip tried to beat Big Mom and failed miserably. But Beige Big Brain was like, I'm going to marry one of her daughters. And he actually falls in love with her. She's like Lola's sister, almost twin sister. I thought that she was Lola at one point. Lola was supposed to marry like a giant or something. The King of the Giants or something. I don't know. And she took off. Lola being Pudding and Beige's wife's sister. But apparently Beige, this was all a big plan. Maybe like a year in the making. He married into the family, had a child. I think his name is Pez, which is crazy. And his whole plan is to kill Big Mom at the wedding. And he was going to do this without Luffy's help. But there's this hilarious scene where Beige brings Luffy and the gang in. They all get to have a shower, which is great. You get the fan service with Nami and whatnot. They all have a shower. They all get dressed up in their gang clothes and whatnot. There's a point where they put like a black hat over Luffy's straw hat, and they're sitting there in this really classic Capone style meeting, and he's like, so you guys want to help me kill Big Mom? I'm almost thinking there might be a double cross within the double cross. But the good thing is, I do not think in any way, shape, or form Capone's plan would have worked without the Straw Hat crew. Not saying that it did work, but it doesn't seem like they could have accomplished this without them. They decide to work together. Capone even saves Caesar, who was actually captured by Big Mom as well, if you remember, from back in Zou. Saves him, who had literally no way of surviving. He had like 2 weeks to come up with the gigantification pill candy so she could make everybody as big as she is. She's got this whole plan, make everybody the same size. It's a whole thing. So Beige wants to kill Big Mom at the wedding. Turns out when Big Mom uses Conqueror's Hockey, she's weakened for a moment. And it only happens when she's frustrated. Big Mom goes on these crazy hunger pains thing as well. Like when she gets a craving, she's got to eat that one thing and she's freaking out. But also she has Conqueror's Hockey. And when the picture of her adopted mother gets destroyed or damaged or knocked over, she freaks out and unleashes everything, knocks everybody out that isn't strong enough to stand it. So she's a tank. Big Mom is a freak. She is insanely powerful naturally from birth for some reason. I might as well just hop right into her backstory, which is a whole box of worms. Turns out she was born by regular humans, but she's pretty giant. She's not a giant, but she's big. She's got a weird. She like breaks people's arms and kills young animals and whatnot. And she's just naturally powerful. She ends up getting adopted by this lady, Carmel, this old lady who runs this orphanage. This orphanage that turns out to be a ruse in a way. She actually has these orphans and she picks out the strongest ones, including Big Mom, and tries to sell them to the government. And they eventually end up being Marines or CP9 or CP agents. And the whole plan was to sell Big Mom, because she turns out that she's an absolute beast, an absolute tank, and wants to sell her and to the government so she could be a CP agent or a member of the Marines. I don't know how they'd ever tame her. But Carmel, who had the soul fruit, and at some point during when she was raising her, Big Mom accidentally goes on a rampage and destroys Elbath. We actually get to see some Elbath, by the way. Carmel ends up, forgiving her and using the soul fruit to fix some stuff. And then later they have, I think it's Big Mom's birthday or something. They make her a bunch of cake or little treats, and Big Mom ends up eating all the orphans and eating Carmel and getting her ability. So apparently if you eat somebody that already has a devil fruit ability, you gain that devil fruit ability. It's the same as eating a devil fruit. Crazy shit. The fact that you can eat somebody, the fact that there's carnivore, the fact that she ate this lady who she considered her mother is so dark. But she has these hunger pains that she just can't see anything but food, and she just eats people without realizing it. And she doesn't know what happened to her mother. And so she keeps this picture of Carmel at every tea party or every dinner. You don't want to knock it over. The whole plan Capone has is to knock over or smash this picture so that Big Mom explodes with Conqueror's hockey, changing everything, and knocking everybody out that's in the way, any lowly servants or children of hers, and then launching a bunch of rockets at her. I'm assuming armor mint hockey laced rockets, because that has to be the only thing that could possibly pierce Big Mom's crazy tank skin. There's another thing. She actually meets a chef, a guy who has to cook fruit. It's not that important, and ends up helping raise her. So the whole plan is to do that. Smash this picture. Luffy has an amazing big brain plan where he's going to explode from the wedding cake, which turns out to be a terrible move. Luffy, they have the mirror lady that they met way back at the Seducing Woods all tied up, and they're using her to go through all the mirrors in the island. And really, the big problem with Big Mom's forces is the fact that she wasn't willing, a lot of the crewmates weren't willing to tell her that Luffy and Nami escaped, or all these bad things are happening, or they didn't want to tell her because they don't want to get in trouble or lose part of their life. If they had just said, hey, Nami and Luffy escaped, maybe we should postpone this wedding, maybe we would have made it out of it. But they were too afraid to tell her any of this. A bunch of big names show up. There's this bird man that shows up who's apparently in charge of the news. The very informative news. The ones where the seagulls drop the newspapers. I think he's in charge of that. He seems pretty important. Also, Big Mom brings this climate box or some shit. This box that she got from Fishman Island. She brings that to the wedding and says she's going to open it. The one that's supposedly explosive. Which actually turns out to be a big part of this wedding. The wedding's about to happen. They're about to kiss. Luffy falls asleep with this whole thing. And right when they're about to kiss and Pudding's going to shoot Sanji finally sees Pudding's eye, the third eye, and she's like, don't you think it's absolutely horrid? It's disgusting, isn't it? I'm a freak. Sanji's like, oh my god, what a beautiful third eye. And she's like, wait, what? And somehow Pudding, the crazy flip-flopper, sort of falls in love with Sanji, I think. I don't know. Like, she is not willing to shoot him. So maybe there's something there. Maybe, I personally, at this point, after what she's done, I do not want them to end up together, but we'll see. Sanji uses his observation hockey to dodge bullets and whatnot. He doesn't get shot. Luffy bursts out of the cake, the wedding cake, with a bunch of mirror clones of himself. A bunch of mirror clones that were created by that member of the Big Mom family. It's a really cool scene, honestly. They show up, they're doing all this crazy shit. They're trying to smash the picture of Carmel. Luffy gets captured by, I think he gets stopped by Katakuri. Big Mom's number one. Katakuri, who's like got the mochi fruit, which is very similar to the gum fruit. He can stretch his body. I think it's a Logia fruit, because he gets shot at one point and bullets shoot through him. I'm excited to see their fight. I really am. The next part of this review, my next review, is going to be about that 20 chapters, and I'm hoping that the fight's pretty good. But Big Brain Brook dresses like Luffy as well, but he's not a clone. He's actually just Brook, and he pulls his face off, which is hilarious, and he's just got his skeleton face, and he smashes the picture of Carmel. Big Mom freaks out, and just the right moment unleashes her Conqueror's Haki, knocking out the people who are going to kill Germa 66. Sanji ends up giving his brothers and sisters and his father their super suit, their raid suits, I think. They're basically Power Rangers. One of them's pink, green, black, red, I think, red. I don't know. I've been reading the manga, so it's all black and white, but I have seen the colored pictures. Germa 66 is now on our side, on the Straw Hat side, on Beige's side. Beige uses the 3 or 10 seconds he has to kill Big Mom. They launch a bunch of these fucking rocket launchers. But Big Mom's so powerful, it doesn't work out at all. He miscalculated completely. It doesn't work at all. The whole crew gets captured. They're about to be killed right there at the wedding. And right before that happens, luckily, the box that came from Fishman Island falls off the giant cake and explodes at the base. And the cake comes crashing down onto Whole Cake Island's main city. It's this whole ordeal. The chef guy who has the cook fruit ends up changing the island to like a bunch of mush so it doesn't actually kill anybody. And it gives the crew a chance to escape, which is great. And the crew escapes. The Capone's crew and Luffy's crew ends up going their own ways. It actually turns out that Caesar ends up being a big part of that. He like floats them away. Oh, and another thing, Beige can turn into a giant castle called Big Father. Fucking awesome. Awesome. I think before this arc, I thought Beige was my least favorite of the supernovas. But after this arc, he's moving on up the ranks. I really like Beige Capone. I love his abilities. I love his personality. He's very interesting. He's got a dynamic about him. He's no Law or Kid, but he's got something special. He's no longer my least favorite of the supernovas in any way, shape, or form. He actually ends up putting a sign up when they go separate ways when they're trying to escape Big Mom that says, Straw Hats went that way. And I literally laugh out loud. The crew ends up running away. Pudding decides that they need to cook Big Mom a new cake to get her out of her hunger pains mode. And Sanji actually gets to have a little heart-to-heart with his dad, Judge, and tells him, "You're not my father. My father is the guy at the Baratier, Chef Zeph, and you told me not to acknowledge you as my father when you kicked me out, when you told me to run away, and because you didn't have the balls to kill me as a kid. The only reason I saved you was because of Chef Zeph, because he would have been disappointed that I held on to a grudge for so long, that I let my real blood family die, even though I knew I could have saved them. Really, the only person important that could have and should have been saved is his sister, who wanted to die because she's basically forced to listen to anything Judge says. Honestly, before I get too far here, the Germa 66, when they go all Sailor Moon and they put their outfits on and they go Power Ranger and whatnot, was actually pretty dope. I was pretty hyped seeing the members of Sanji's family actually help him. They end up they protect the Straw Hat crew for a hot minute and help them escape, to help them get to the Sunny. Brook and Chopper end up protecting the Sunny while they're waiting for Luffy and everybody to get there. They end up taking the submarine and getting there the quick way, but by the time they get there, let me look up the name of the guy, Katakuri and Purosapuro, this dude that has the candy fruit, are already there, and they've already set up a mirror, and they've already been bringing armies and armies. Like, Brook and Chopper actually end up being badasses and defending the ship for a while. Nami ends up taking this Cloud homie, that's one of Big Mom's first homies. There's a Cloud homie who has a little hat. He's pretty cute, actually. Joins the Straw Hat crew, I think. He at least joins Nami's side. And she's like, "Be my slave." And he's like, "Yeah." And there's actually a funny scene where Sanji's like, "Yeah, I'll be your slave." And Jinbei's like, "She's not talking to you." But she's able to turn a homie against Big Mom because she feeds him a bunch of her Climatak clouds, which works, I guess. It's a whole thing. There's a lot that I'm forgetting here, but there was a lot that I read. The crew ends up getting through the seducing woods thanks to this cloud and whatnot. They get there and they save Chop. The only way they were able to save Chopper and Brook, who were turned into candy, they only had like a few minutes before they were permanently turned into candy. And the only reason they were able to save them is because an ultimate sacrifice was made. Yes! And a real death happens. Pedro, the mink, who was kind of a self-sacrifice earlier in the story when they were trying to get the poneglyph and whatnot, he blows himself up to knock out the dude that turned Chopper and Brook into candy, saving everybody, and he only had a few years left. He's like 75 because he lost 50 years of his life back in the day. And the only reason he wasn't killed by Big Mom back in the day was because Pekoms, who was a big deal as well, who ends up saving some people and getting captured and surviving again, who is still part of Big Mom's crew, I think. One last big thing happens where Luffy takes Katakuri, who's obviously the most dangerous opponent here other than Big Mom, into the mirror world. And then Luffy smashes the mirror and says, "You're not going to hurt my crew. I'm going to fight you here and now without any interference." The only people in the mirror world is the Mirror Lady, Katakuri, and Luffy. And that's where I left off, was them standing off against each other, because I was like, I have to stop. There's so much information, and I'm sure I missed important things, but Whole Cake Island is easily one of my favorite arcs so far, post-time skip. This is what the new world should be about. Crazy worlds. I was actually a little skeptical of this weird Alice in Wonderland world with the faces on the doors and whatnot, but really, I didn't question Oda for a second. I mean, we went through Skypiea, we went through Fishman Island, we've seen some crazy shiz in this world, and I've learned that Oda will explain it, and it will all make sense. At some point, it could be 300 chapters later, but it will all make sense in the world of One Piece. Whole Cake Island makes sense, and I adore Oda for that. He's able to explain it. She's got all these kids with all these abilities that it makes it work. She puts pieces of people's souls into these homies that make them live and keeps an eye on people as well. I guess one more thing would be Pudding and Beige's wife end up getting back together. And they go and get Sanji, and they are going to bake a cake, the perfect wedding cake, for Big Mom, apparently. I do hope that Sanji isn't going to just spend all his time baking a cake, because this is kind of his arc. It would be kind of cool to see Sanji and Cracker fight, maybe, or Sanji and Big Mom fight. Maybe the cake will be laced with something, or maybe Pudding and Sanji will end up fighting. I really don't know, because she still is a little crazy. She's going back and forth from being sweet to Sanji to being murderous to Sanji. Don't forget to check down below in the description to order yourself a Morfanime t-shirt. The Morfanimaniacs, that's you, my subscribers. Morfanimaniacs represent. Also, thank you guys for being subscribers. Don't forget to like, share, all those fun things. It really helps me out. This is Morfanime. What'd you think of my first part 1 review of Whole Cake Island? I've got like 25 more chapters to go, probably less. And I'm oh so excited. I'm very excited to see the rest of the crew. I mean, I really couldn't imagine waiting, who knows, God knows how long it took to get these chapters out, to get Whole Cake Island all the way through. And you don't get to see, at least up to the point where I am, I believe at 878, and not see Zoro, one of the main characters, not see Nico Robin, best girl, not see Usopp, God Usopp, for 2 years, is my assumption. That's pretty rough, and I've only had to spend a few weeks without them, and I'm already having Zoro withdrawals. Nico Robin withdrawals, and I can't wait to see them again. Sorry for the long-winded review. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you later.